One thing I didn't show before I start the inlay is I clean the surface of the ring with either lacquer thinner or acetone. Everything must be really clean in order for the glue to stick. I'm going to start out by using a fine green glitter, which I'll leave a link for in the description. To start out, I'm going to use a medium thick CA glue. Now I'll apply a thin layer of CA glue. With the medium CA glue, you have plenty of time to work with it and embed the glitter into the glue. I pour a small amount of glitter onto an index card so I can tap in the amount of glitter I want onto the ring. Applying the glitter this way instead of pouring out of the bottle keeps from making a big mess. Here I'm using my finger to embed the glitter into the CA glue. You may want to use gloves for that part. I don't, and I just clean the CA glue off my finger with acetone. You just want to make sure you don't stick your fingers together at this point. I'm going to do this procedure all the way around the ring. You don't want to make the glitter too thick here. You want to apply just enough so none of the ring is exposed. Now I'll turn the lathe on real slow and apply an accelerator. This will make the CA glue dry almost instantly. I hold the can really far back and spray a light mist over the ring. If you spray too much or spray too close on the CA glue will turn a cloudy white and you'll have to start all over. Now I'll apply several layers to embed the glitter. Though I am embedding the glitter, I don't want to install too many layers yet to fill up the channel. I'm applying just enough so I can create a smooth surface for the Shamrocks. Now I'm going to smooth out this first layer of inlay so I can apply the Shamrocks. You might notice I'm taking small layers off at a time. I learned the hard way that taking off too much at one time can cause the CA glue to chip right down to the bare metal and having to start all over again. Here I'm smoothing out the CA glue with a piece of emery cloth. Then I smoothed it out a little bit more with 220 sandpaper. Now I'll wipe it down with a dry cloth. You don't want to use solvents here because that could eat up the CA glue. Now I can apply the Shamrocks. I drew these up in Photoshop. Then I cut them out in green vinyl with my Cricut Maker. I carefully apply them and use the lines from the ring mandrel to evenly space them out around the ring. These cuts are evenly spaced all the way around the ring mandrel, so they come in handy to use as guidelines for setting the Shamrocks. This part is the most tedious part of making the ring. The Shamrocks are too small to handle with your fingers, and you can't really see it from the picture, but there is a stem on the Shamrock, and I have to turn them all the same way. As far as the Cricut machine is concerned, I'm really surprised it would cut out something this small. These Shamrocks are less than 1/4 of an inch wide. If you look closely here, you can just barely see the stem on the Shamrock. I have to do this a total of 8 times, so I'm going to fast forward this a bit. Before I apply the final layers of CA glue, I double check my spacing and make sure they're where I want before I start putting the finish on. Now that I have everything where I want and they're pressed down firmly, it's time to put the final layers of CA glue on. For this step, I'm going to use thin CA glue. I'm going to slowly apply thin layers of CA glue. I use Q-tips to spread the glue out evenly. If you see a little puff of smoke come out and you're using the Q-tip, remove the Q-tip immediately. That tells you a chemical reaction is happening and the glue is about to harden. If you don't remove it after the smoke happens, you'll have to remove the Q-tip from the finish. If it doesn't set right away, I'll use the accelerator and it dries almost instantly. I've tried using medium CA glue for the final finish to build up the layers quicker. I found that occasionally in between the layers there were voids, and I didn't find them until the polishing process, and then had to dig the inlay out and start all over. Now I use the thin CA glue and I haven't had a problem yet. It does take quite a few more coats, however, the shine is a lot better and the finish is a lot clearer. I'm going to keep applying layers of CA glue until the channel is filled past the ring. You can see here that the finish is starting to become even with the ring. You want to overfill this area so you have something to sand off and polish. Once I'm happy with the amount of finish that's applied, I'm ready to start sanding and polishing. To bring the finish down even with the ring, I start with 120 emery cloth. Keep the lathe at a slower speed so I don't burn the finish. When sanding the finish down, you want to make sure the sandpaper is flat. If you use your fingers to apply pressure to the finish will become concave and it won't be even with the ring. I keep using 120 until I get the finish down to just about touching the metal ring. A few low spots here. Here I'm checking for low spots to see if I need to apply more CA glue. I do find a couple, but I'm sure they'll come out during the sanding process. I'm going to continue sanding a little bit further with the 120 grit paper. You'll see I'm using my fingers here, but I'm applying most of the pressure to the outside edges to get the CA glue off the edge of the ring. The voids I thought were going to come out during the sanding process didn't, so I'm going to have to apply another layer of CA glue. Now that I've almost got the finish level with the ring, I switch over to 220 grit sandpaper. From here on out, I'll be using wet sandpaper, starting out with 220 grit. While I'm working my way down to different levels of sandpaper, I make sure I get the side edges of the ring to make sure those get polished as well. After 220, I move on to 400 grit. You can see even after the 400 grit, we're already starting to get a pretty good shine. Now I go on to 600 grit sandpaper. Then 800 grit. Then I finish it off with 1500 grit. Now the final steps, polishing and cleaning. I'm going to start by polishing the inside of the ring with the Dremel tool. I'm using a polishing bit for the Dremel tool. I used this one on a previous ring, so I'm cleaning it off with 120 grit sandpaper. I'm going to use a white polishing compound to polish the inside of the ring. When you're polishing the inside of the ring with this buffing wheel, you want to make sure you don't stay in one place for too long, because this will cause the ring to overheat and will discolor the finish of the inlay. Now I'm going to mount a small buffing wheel into the lathe and polish the outside of the ring. I'm turning the speed of the lathe up to about 2000 RPM. Here I'm using slight pressure on the ring into the buffing wheel, but I'm also turning the ring at the same time so I don't stay in one place, otherwise I'll burn the ring. I'll make sure I get the side edges of the ring as well. Then I switch over to the blue compound. I do this until I get the ring to a high gloss. Now I'm using carnauba wax to clean the ring. The wax will clean the ring and give it a nice deep shine. Now I check it for fit, and it fits perfectly. I just started making rings in January of this year. I think this is about the 15th ring that I've made so far, and I'm going to post more videos like this one. I have some really cool ideas for rings, and I'm going to show you how I make them. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Until next time, thanks for watching.